Shalom, my friends. So, how do we fight satanic and irrational anti-Semitism? Is it even possible? Before we start, would you consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and giving us a thumbs up? Thank you. So, there's no lack of organizations dedicated to fighting anti-Semitism on a global scale. And with the continued increase in Jew hatred, it's a good thing. Yet, I believe that when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism, there is a fundamental aspect of the fight that is vastly misunderstood. The reason why it is misunderstood is simply that those who fight against anti-Semitism often do not take into consideration the spiritual component of the oldest hatred. They truly believe that men and women of goodwill can prevail against this xenophobic virus. While I believe people can fight racism successfully and even eradicate it if they want to, it is different for anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism includes racism, but it is not the same as racism. It is a bit more complex to define. My standard definition for anti-Semitism is as follows, and I quote, "Anti-Semitism is a irrational, satanic hatred of the Jewish people and of Israel characterized by thoughts, words, and/or deeds against them." Close quote. I have yet to see a definition of anti-Semitism that includes the word satanic or demonic. The aspect of the problem is seldom, if ever, mentioned. I must admit that even in my case, it is not until recently that I felt the need to include the word satanic in my definition. But it is a key, if not the key component. The reason is simple, and it is actually found in the Bible. God has Israel and the Jewish people at the core of his plan for mankind. Genesis, the first book of the Torah and the Bible, has 50 chapters. The first 11 chapters cover mankind in general, and the next 39 cover the Jewish people from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Wow. God's plan for the Jewish people is not an afterthought. The Jewish people wrote our Bible, gave us the prophets, and Yeshua the Messiah came from Israel in his humanity. Not to mention that a second coming will only be ushered by Israel when Jewish people call on Yeshua at the end of the tribulation. So even in that aspect, the Jewish people are very involved. Of all beings, Satan knows that very well, and he understands the ramifications of Yeshua's first and second comings. The bottom line is this: planet Earth can only have one ruler, Satan or Yeshua, and the Bible tells us that it will not bode well for Satan. He wants to destroy all that is special to God, Israel and the Jewish people. As a result, have been on top of his list for a very long time. He wanted to stop Yeshua's first coming, Genesis 3:15, and corrupt the race through which Messiah would be born, Genesis 6:1-8. He failed. Even Yeshua's death was part of the plan to pay for humanity's sins. Yeshua is soon returning, and Satan is very scared because he knows what it means. When at the end of the 7-year tribulation, also known as the time of Jacob's trouble, Israel will realize that Yeshua is indeed the Jewish Messiah and Savior of the world. And the Jewish people will call upon him corporately, as we see in Zechariah 12:10. It was Yeshua who declared to Israel that his return was dependent upon their crying out to him, Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai, in Matthew 23:37-39. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together the way a hen gathers their chicks under her wings, and you were unwilling. Behold, your house is being left to you desolate. For I said to you, from now on you will not see me until you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Close quote. Satan knows that that time is coming, and he is about to get fired, pun intended. He continues to do everything he can to denigrate, demonize, and decimate the Jews so that he can keep his position of the prince of the power of the air. Ephesians 2:1-2. This is the only reason anti-Semitism exists, and this is why I am convinced from a biblical perspective that it will not cease, but only increase until Yeshua Sar Shalom, Jesus, the Prince of Peace, returns and puts an end to it. So, why fight it if the battle is pointless? We fight it because it is our duty to do so regardless of the immediate outcome, and the battle is far from pointless. In fighting, we might expose the lies to others that have been swayed away from support of Israel and love of the Jewish people. We might never change the minds of the most virulent anti-Semites. Yeshua will handle them personally. But we can still influence those who are confused, uneducated, and open to change. I have yet to find a better system to expose anti-Semitism than the 3Ds developed by Russian refusnik turned Israeli politician and activist Natan Sharansky. He posits that the best way to expose anti-Semitism is to see if any actions or words delivered fall into one or more of these three categories: delegitimization, demonization, and double standards. These three feed off each other and are not that complicated to identify. Sharansky helps us in exposing the problem, but what we need is a solution. Once we see that an action or words fall in any of all of the three Ds, I would like to suggest three more Ds to help us work toward a solution. Now remember that the solution is not going to be a complete eradication of anti-Semitism. That will only happen when Yeshua returns at the end of the time of Jacob's trouble and takes over. So the first D that I propose is diagnose. Using the 3Ds litmus test, we must diagnose the issue and clearly determine if it qualifies as anti-Semitism. Dislike of a Jewish person or criticism of Israeli policies might not always be driven by Jew hatred. It might be honest and justified once we study the facts and the motives behind any move. For instance, criticizing somebody like George Soros or Chuck Schumer for whatever reason does not necessarily qualify as anti-Semitism just because they have Jewish ancestry. Number two, determine. Once the issue is diagnosed as anti-Semitic, it is time to determine what course of action is necessary. Should we speak up? Should we write to, email, or call local or national leaders and politicians geographically connected to the issue at stake? Should we correct the offender? Should we educate others about the truth and debunk the lies? Should we reach out to the victim or victims and voice our concerns and support? Frankly, all the questions raised above are actions to take and will always be based on a specific situation. The key is to do something. And the third one is defend. People are quick to speak up and express their indignations. That is good. But what about coming to the defense of the Jewish people in question? If you're looking for a biblical mandate to do so, well, here we go. Start with Genesis 12:3 and bless the Jewish people. Continue with Psalm 83:5 and understand that the enemies of Israel are the very enemies of God. And finish by applying the principle of the sheep in Matthew 23:31 through 40. When our Jewish friends need us the most, it will be the time to move from praying for the peace of Jerusalem to protecting the children of Jerusalem. The proverbial rubber is about to meet the road. Get ready to rescue your Jewish friends. We might never completely eradicate anti-Semitism on this side of eternity, but we cannot ignore it. If it seems to fit delegitimization, demonization, and or double standards, we must diagnose, determine, and defend. Your Jewish friends and family might be in for a surprise, but Yeshua is not expecting any less of us, because the last thing he desires from believers is to sit on the fence as we wait for his return. Be blessed. Until next time, Shalom.